Welcome to Vitalify Unplugged. You're listening to your hosts, Gree and Steph.
In this podcast, we talk about everything health and well-being, science and technology, and ancient wisdom.
This is for the quirky humans navigating the messy middle, looking for the path to true vitality.
It's for the curious minds and tired bodies looking for clarity, energy, and inspiration that works your way.
Welcome to Vitalify Unplugged.
Hey, it's your friend Gree, intuitive AI and tech whisperer, 60 plus full throttle energy bunny, chasing fun, fairness, and freedom.
And I'm Steph, holistic nurse, soulful scribbler, magnetic mama, and dancing through midlife with truth, magic, and messy, wild-hearted freedom.
Today, we're diving into a conversation about something many of us quietly long for: time. Not just time off, but time to breathe, to slow down, and to rediscover who we are when we're not racing from one responsibility to the next. Because for so many people, especially in midlife, life has been decades of working, for some raising families, achieving and doing. But what happens when that pace finally changes? Do we feel free, or do we feel a little bit lost?
So today we're joined by Anita Spurling, someone who has navigated that transition herself. And after retiring at 58, Anita suddenly found herself asking a question many people eventually face: what now? And rather than seeing this stage of life as the end of something, Anita chose to see it as the beginning of a reinvention. Through community, connection, and a passion for bridge, she discovered new rhythms of life and became a passionate advocate for positive aging and helping people rediscover purpose beyond work. So we are really, really excited to have Anita here today and explore her journey around time and the wealth of time.
But before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you, Anita.
Thank
Who
you.
are you? And what's the path that brought you to this stage of life you're in now?
All right, well, thank you very much for both of you for having me along. It's a little bit confronting trying to share my story because you're trying to make it worthwhile. But I'm like a lot of women that I didn't ever have children, but that was by choice. But I had a very, very successful business career. And in 2007, my mother died of breast cancer. And I sort of took a step back and thought, I'm going to start, doing the things I always wanted to do. But then, you have a mortgage to pay, and then I got another job offer, then I bought an invested property, and all of a sudden life turns over and it keeps on going. And I thought, this is a bit crazy. I feel like I was a bit like a rat in a wheel. And I met my now husband, and I moved down to Frankston South. And I thought my life had sort of changed. And I thought, what am I doing down here? I was an inner city person. And then for the first time ever in my 40-year working career, I was retrenched. And I thought, God, that's never happened to me. I've never, ever lost a job. And so all of a sudden, Andrew, who was my biggest supporter, said, why don't you start out on your own? So I started out my own business back in 2008 as a marketing manager, going back to the companies that had employed me as an employee as their consultant. And I did that for the next, very happily, until 2022. And I was happy. I thought I was happy. I had the brand new car and overseas trips and all that sort of things, but there's something always sort of niggling at you. Then I had a couple of health scares, and that was enough for me to sort of think, actually, this is, So the first health scare was I was trying to find a hobby. I didn't really know what to do with myself if I didn't work. And I think a lot of people can identify with that because you are who you work. I'm Anita Spurling. I was the marketing manager. I'm Steph. I'm the nurse. So we tend to identify ourselves by the jobs that we are rather than the people we are. And so I went on I started taking horse riding lessons again because I used to ride horses when I was a kid, and that was fantastic. I went for a couple of years. A friend of mine gave me her horse, and that was terrific. And I thought, oh, well, this is great. And then I had, about 2 years on, I had a very, very nasty accident, and the horse I fell off the horse deliberately because it was bolting. And as I fell off, the horse trampled on my left breast and missed my heart in about an inch. And the plastic surgeon said at the time that I was very lucky to survive, because he said another step, you would have not been here. It would have crushed your rib cavity and your heart and your chest. And after that, I started getting vertigo. And I thought, oh, yeah, this is all good. I'm only, 57, and what's happening here? And I'm not meant to be old. And so I had vertigo, and that wasn't great. And so I got referred to somebody else to go and check the vertigo, and that all came just as, stress. And then in 2020, after we had COVID and all the rest of it, and that sort of changed the world, and I was still working because I had worked remotely anyway. So it was just a change for me. But I was still doing the same work. And then we had a massive storm here in Frankston South, and we lost 2 cypress pine trees, and they were about 100-foot trees, massive trees. So I got up one morning about 2:22 and saw this massive cypress pine in our backyard, and I screamed out to my husband, and it taken out the whole backyard, and Steph is aware of our backyard. So I ran inside and we called the SES. And as I was standing there, our dog went down the stairs to go to the toilet because there was 2 trees. And all of a sudden, the second tree came out of its roots and was heading towards myself and the dog. And within about seconds, I had literally seconds, I screamed out to Harley, and then the tree came slamming down into the house and knocking out the back of our house and nearly killing me and the dog. And that was another thing that missed me by seconds. So you think somewhere along here someone's trying to tell me something.
Right?
And so from there, then the vertigo came back and I went, great, here we go again. But I was still working. I just got another contract. I had a contract extended, and I thought, this is fine. I can cope with this because that's what women do. We cope with all these things. And then I finally got referred to a neurosurgeon because I had some scans. I had an MRI, and the person I was seeing, she said, we can see something on the MRI. And I went, what do you mean? And she said, I can't really go into it. Now, the irony of this story is Andrew was a widower when I first met Andrew, and Andrew's first wife died of a brain tumor. And we found out on the Friday that I had this brain tumor, but they said it looks malignant. You'll be fine. It's just, and that was the same information that Andrew's wife had been told. And so that weekend was fairly anxious. And Andrew phoned the neurosurgeon, who ironically was the neurosurgeon that had diagnosed Sue's brain tumor. So as you can see, right, that the whole world becomes full circle. So we got an emergency appointment, and I went to see him, and he looked at the MRI and he looked at earlier scans, which I had when I'd fallen off the horse, and he matched them 2 together, and he said, it's not the bad one. He said, you have a meningioma, and he said, you'll probably die of it rather than with it. And with that, I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm finished. I've had 3 knocks on the door of life. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm done. But by then I'm thinking, what do I actually do? And that's the most challenging part, that any person, all female, just because all of a sudden you have 8 to 10 hours in your day to fill.
Yeah. Holy moly, that is an ass side you wear.
Because most of our listeners do not live in Frankston, have no idea where Frankston is, and may not be watching, they may just be listening. So maybe we can put a little bit of context around what that means in the bigger world, in the global world, because we do have a global audience.
Okay, so it's 50k southeast of Melbourne.
Yeah, beautiful part of the world. Yeah, in Australia.
Yep, in Australia. So it's 50k's. It's on the beach. It's on the coast of the Mornington Peninsula.
I call it the Bunurong Headlands. It's like headland country along where we are. Anyway.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, Anita's my neighbour.
And I think you might have missaid, you said that you would die from it, not with it. You meant the other way around?
Yes, no. I will die with it, not of it. So it hasn't grown, hasn't changed. I have to have an MRI every 2 years, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't done anything.
Yeah. Well, that's what my mum says about her cancer as well. With it, not
and so
from it.
a lot of people have the same thing. A lot of men who have prostate cancer, they'll actually die with it still there, not of it. Yeah. But that's it's the C word, and it gives you a bit of a shock, and that's when you have to realise that what is life actually about.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that kind of leads on to what we're moving into, because what we're trying to expand on in this podcast is looking at wealth from a much broader sense than money.
Yeah.
And so I guess our question for you, and you probably alluded to it a little bit, but when you hear the word wealth, what does that mean to you now that we know your story and how you got here? What does the word wealth conjure up for you?
Wealth for me now means, well, health is one thing it means to me, and actually
Yeah.
being with the people that matter the most, not
Yeah.
surrounded by people that actually don't matter and they don't contribute and they don't add to my life. There's so many
Yeah.
people that we're spending times consuming and just doing the right thing, and rather than actually doing things that you want to do because you're with people that you enjoy being with. So that's what wealth means to me. And I have a freedom now to choose what I do. Now, we're not wealthy people in that sense of terms of, the salary. We're not certainly Elon Musk, but I don't think you need to be that to be wealthy. We have a
No.
fantastic network of friends and we keep ourselves active. The mind is always active, and that's wealth to me.
That's
Mm.
wonderful.
Yep.
Love that insight. Do you feel that that's changed as you've moved through stages of
Yes.
life, Anita? Yeah.
Because in the early stages, I think we're all acquiring. We're either getting the better car, we move out of home, we go to the 1-bedroom flat, the 2-bedroom flat, we get married, we have kids, and then we get a mortgage, and then we get a bigger mortgage, and then all the rest of it. Now, I chose not to have children, but I went
Yep.
from the investment property to 2 investment properties to then buying a house. And so we're constantly acquiring. And none of us,
Yeah.
I'll speak for all of us, none of us are necessarily born into the concept of wealth. So we had to
Yeah.
create our own thing. So wealth changes. And then as
Mm.
we get a little bit older, you learn the things that actually matter is not having, the newest car or the newest clothes. It's actually having
Yeah.
a freedom to do what you want to do without having to answer to anybody also.
I love that perspective, and it actually leads beautifully into what we wanted to explore today, which is time and energy wealth. So many people spend decades running on the treadmill of life, building careers, raising families, achieving and accumulating, and then suddenly the pace shifts. And I know I'm probably older than you, so I kind of know how it shifts a little bit. And then we're faced with the question that we may not have asked ourselves for years. What do I want my life to look like now? And I know that you already explored some of that. So that's what we're exploring, what happens when life finally slows down.
It is really challenging. I used to go to the gym at 5:30, 6 a.m. because I'm a morning person. And all of a sudden it was a bit of a realization that I don't need to get there because I don't have a meeting to race to. And so I could get there at 8. But that has its own challenges because you feel a bit worthless. You feel a bit like you're lost because all of a sudden you don't have a meeting to go to. You don't have people that are accountable to you. And also you miss the connections with the workforce that you didn't have. And you start to feel a little bit irrelevant. And so especially for myself, I was in a fairly much of a marketing background, new technologies, all of those sorts of things. All of a sudden I felt like, the old woman at home that didn't really understand things. I've gone from, reading the Financial Review to reading the Mills and Boon. And it was a bit like, well, what do I do? Now, you really is very working at finding time is harder than you think that it is because you actually try and fill every moment of every day to make you feel worthwhile or making you feel like you're valued. Whereas you used to get that third-party endorsement all the time from people saying, oh, great job, and the staff are really happy. And now you're kind of like, well, the dog's happy and been for the walk. And I've done my exercise program. And well, now what do I do? Now what do I do for the rest of the day?
Yeah. I
Even
think
while
you
I'm...
can't.
Go ahead.
Well, I was
No,
going
I'm
to say,
just
I
thinking
think
I
you
can
kind of.
recognize this because
Yes,
I'm kind of
a lot of people can, men and women. It's not gender specific because
no,
No.
it's not.
I
But,
actually think it's actually harder for men, to be honest. We know
because
of some,
they're meant to be achieving much more in the workplace in a
yes,
way, right?
and I
Or
think
that's how they measure.
well, I think we've confronted at the moment. Steph and I have a mutual friend. He's a male and he doesn't have a hobby, and his wife is still working, and he doesn't think he can stop because he actually doesn't know what he's going to do during the day. And statistics have shown that recent stats have shown us that men traditionally who retire early, unfortunately, don't tend to live for much longer because all of a sudden their sense of purpose, which is so tied up to work and as the major provider in that sort of old sort of fashioned way, find themselves struggling, absolutely struggling.
Well, it's also their identity, right? Like,
so much.
I am the provider. I am that makes me worthwhile. I am valued, Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but women have that, but I also think potentially we're a bit more adaptable, even though I agree it's still that transition, which is hard.
It
And
is. And also, but women as a rule have tended to take time out of a workforce, whether it been to have children or in my case, I took a couple of months off to look after my mother who was dying. And whereas my brothers weren't expected to do that because
no,
that's not what they do because they were the
yeah.
I
Yeah,
actually feel like this could be a whole new season about these differences as in not in a season in life, but for Vitalify Unplugged, the whole thing about expectations and both gendered and whatever we put on ourselves. So
we'll put that one to side.
Yeah, let's move forward with your life.
Okay.
Can I ask you, was there a point, so, you obviously describe the transition, you decided, that's it, I'm going to stop.
Mhm.
And then you had to sort of rediscover who you were and how you could contribute and feel valued or self-validation.
Yep.
But what point did you feel that shift after that structure had disappeared? Like, what sort of time frame how did you,
It wasn't
got
as
it-
quick as what you think. It's I used to have
No.
mentor a lot of young women because I came from a commercial property background. And I was so think of the walking into a room and there's 1,000 blokes in suits. And so there's a lot of these young women didn't know how to deal with that in terms of a networking issue. So I mentored them and I was a business coach to them. So when I rang them all and said, I'm done, I'm finished. And they were all like, oh, yeah. And so they'd say, oh, can we catch up in the city and can you come and talk to us? And do you mind if I just share my ideas with you? I said, that's fine. But after a while, it took about 6 months, I started to feel irrelevant. And they said, oh, it'd be great to see you in the city. And I'd go to the city and I'd talk and have lunch and they'd be talking about things I think, I don't care. I really don't care. But I had to sort of go through the facade of caring. I mean, I care about the person. I care about
Of
the person,
course.
but not the dramas they were going through because it seemed fairly.
Yeah.
But then I had to recreate myself, and that's what it is about. Being retired, you have to work at full time. You can't just say, right, that's it. I'm going to, garden all day and cook all day and meet up with friends. And you do that for about a month, and then you think, sure. So that's when I was actually very envious of my husband because he had lost his wife, as I said, and he's older than I am. And so Andrew had already retired. I mean, he's retired now, but he was retiring when we first got together. So, but Andrew had hobbies. And so he was into photography, he was into four-wheel driving, he was into all of these sorts of things. And I quietly envied it because all of a sudden I thought, I actually don't have a hobby. If I'm not working, what am I actually doing?
Yeah, right.
And that was, I don't know about you two, but if you think to yourself, what is my hobby? You go,
I have lots of hobbies. Don't worry. I can...
No, that's it. You have lots of interests.
I do,
but not
yeah.
actually something that takes up your whole day that's not necessarily connected to a work environment.
No, that's true.
So you have to think about what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's also kind of relating to, what stage of life you're in as well.
But phase at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got young children, Steph, so it's quite different.
Yeah, exactly. But that I've thought about that thing about having a hobby or having, an interest or joining a choir or doing something like that, because that connection that you, like, I still work full time for myself. And it takes up a lot of my time, but I stay here in my home office and kind of that's my life. That's where I am all the time. So I actually need to set up something. And like you were saying, I like what you said about being retired is a full-time job.
It is.
You have to put full-time into it. But
because you wake up in the morning and you think, well, what am I going to do with my day?
Yeah.
Because, you wake up now and go, right, I've got a 7 a.m. podcast and I've got this and I've got that. So then all of a sudden it gets to... But you wake up and you don't have anything in your diary.
Can I just say that some people would love that?
Yes, but you love it for
a while.
But what
you're saying, right?
Until they have it.
Yeah, and it's like being on holidays. You love being on holidays, but after a while you miss being at home.
You're ready to go back.
And then you go back and you hear, the person at the shopping centre, with the horrible Australian accent and you think, but the reality of life is that we're actually now home.
Yeah.
And, you're not on a
All the
constant
time.
holiday.
No.
So you actually have to
Yeah.
have some purpose. And I think most of us
100.
actually are fairly much community focused, and I'd hope us to be.
Absolutely.
So I got in contact with all these, charity groups, and so I could be a volunteer, and then I was sort of searching. I was just searching around. I wanted to do something. I can't sing. I can't knit. There's only so many cooking classes I could bloody well do. And I thought, and then we had friggin' COVID, so I couldn't go out anyway. So it's like,
especially not in your area.
No, thank you very much. We had the world's greatest lockdown state. So thank you for that accolade. Thank you.
Well, our whole state was locked in, not
Yes.
down, but locked in. So,
Yes.
weren't allowed to travel anywhere.
So I was lucky enough that I was looking through during COVID, and there's this ad that came up on Facebook, and I had just started to think about, what was I going to do? And it said, do you enjoy playing cards? And I went, oh, I love playing cards. And I grew up in a family of playing cards, and my mother's dying wish actually was she wished she'd learned to play bridge. And I saw this ad and I went, oh. And so I thought, bugger it. So I'm going to learn. And then we went into shutdown. So I went from enrolling into meeting people to all of a sudden just meeting people like this and going, oh, hi. And so that was quite challenging. Then we come out of lockdown, and then we went back into lockdown. But I'm a fairly outgoing person, and I need people. I need people around me. And some people need, silence. I need the noise of a life around me. So finally I came out of lockdown, and all of a sudden I was in my element. My life was reinvented.
Which is really, really cool, and designing that new life rhythm. But I'm just curious about, if you look back now, just before you get to the design, how do you see that the way that our culture values busyness, not business, but busyness and achievement, and how that impacted you through life?
We all are measured by sort of what are we doing in a calendar, and we all have a watch that tells us the time and the meetings, and we're notified of all of these things. So when people used to say to me, oh, what do you do now that you're retired? You go, oh, there's an expectation that you've got to have things to do. And if you say, oh, I'm going to read a book for an hour, they don't place any value on that. They go, oh, well, what are you going to do for the rest of the day? Because somehow that becomes a bit worthless. And so it's almost like, what are you going to do that is actually valued by a society that values us keeping busy constantly? And unless you want to be a yoga teacher or run a wellness retreat, which is acceptable in that instance. But if you were just a person that retired, they kind of lose interest, and they go, oh, so you don't do anything. And you go, actually, I do lots of things. But when you say you work for a charity, this is one of the things that's actually happening at the moment is they're looking to pay, the federal government is looking to pay volunteers like a nominal amount, because there's a perception that as a volunteer, you're therefore worth nothing. And people that want to work in charities, or there's a women's charity that I'm very passionate about, it's called Dress for Success, that
beautiful.
women don't have, they don't know how to do their hair or makeup or clothes, but there's no sense of value attached to that, because unless you're actually producing something, then what are you doing? And I find that confronting. I find that offensive in some ways, because life has more value than just being busy.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do think on that volunteering thing as well, sorry, Steph, I keep on jumping in because I get so engaged. But the volunteering thing, if you look at, our country requires volunteers to actually run, right? And who's doing most of the volunteering? I'm not going into a gendered conversation now.
Someone else is doing it. And someone else, who is that else?
But it's a lot of women and like retirees, right, that do the volunteering. And so a lot of women who might not be able to find work otherwise as well, which is a whole different conversation. But I just want to kind of drop that in, and then we can move on. Steph, I think you had some questions, sorry.
Yeah, and I think that's, I agree with the volunteering tends to be more women, but men, especially the man I was talking about before who doesn't know what to do with himself when he retires, I think he has an enormous amount to contribute. And I think there's a lot of men like that. And I think there should be some conversations around how you don't need to be the major. How much money do you need in order to live comfortably? And this is the bloody question that drives me mad, is, the retirement question. How much money do you need? I don't know. How long am I going to live? If we knew that answer. Do I live a week or a month or a year? I don't know. How would you? It's a stupid question to ask.
Yeah.
And they're all pushing it on you. Like everyone
Have you got
is
enough?
pushing
And
it
you go,
on.
I don't know. What's enough?
Am I happy? What is wealth?
What is wealth?
Steph.
Well, and that's is what we're exploring, what is wealth. But I think people undervalue time because time is so precious. Like you've alluded to in your story, like 3 strikes and you're like, okay, I don't know how much time I've got left here. I'm going to make the most of what's left. But then when you've had to do that, you're like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? And I think sometimes perhaps when people who are particularly used to being busy, slowing down can actually be so uncomfortable, as you've said, that it kind of just flips you into being busy in other areas. What do you think about that?
I would agree with that, but I think what I'm doing now is I'm busy in areas that I think add value to a person's life rather than someone's bottom line.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Yesterday I played bridge and there was a lady there and I made it a bit of my personal challenge that I don't think she's laughed for a good couple of months. And so she was on the table with me and she was an older woman. She sat down and I said, oh, hi, I'm Anita, Frankston Bridge Club, blah, blah. She goes, oh, hi. And so then I started to sort of talk and she said, we're playing cards? And I said, yeah, but, let's be a bit friendly and, let's have a bit of a chat. And after about 5 minutes, I actually got her to laugh and I went, tick. So what that meant to me is that she had no joy in her life. She was just there, and grumpy and horrible, and just not, So I actually now have a different concept of what wealth is in making time. Is I prefer to make people happy and do things that generate a feeling of community, especially older people. Because bridge tends to attract older people, and it's men and women, so it's not necessarily gender specific. But so many of these people are lonely and they don't talk to people.
No, that's right.
That is what community and habits are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going off script a bit, sorry, Grief, but I find that the sense that you were led to bridge that gave you that insight and your time became valuable to you. Like you bridge a lot. Like you're a bridgeaholic in my view.
No, but you've got to see that the associated things with that. For example, I've been
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Now in the Frankston City Council, the local council, in their committee called Positive Aging. Now, it could be about, but that happens to be there because I've got there through a particular pathway. But that's actually just about bringing people together. You could be playing bridge or you could be playing, I don't know, throwing jacks in the air. It's irrelevant is what you're doing is you're actually bringing people together that no longer work full time to how they can feel a sense of purpose. Yeah. So bridge just happens to be my vehicle into it, not actually the means to an end.
No. And I think that's the part that I find interesting because for someone like Andrew, it's potentially the photography club or, and so I guess if you are going through that change in life, that is the kind of what I'm hearing from your story is to listen to what it is that calls you and dive in and go full throttle and talk into that community to help reconnect with yourself.
When you retire, you don't lose the skills that you have learned.
Not at all.
You just and what people need to, maybe your listeners need to do is if you've always been that sort of person, I'm a born networker, then you simply refocus that into areas that you're passionate about. And for me, if I go in somewhere and I see people standing alone or not really communicating with anybody, I gravitate to them. I don't want to go over to the big group of 20 people that are all, banging on about things. I want to actually go and find that person that actually hasn't come out of their shell. Because just because I'm retired doesn't make that's part of my DNA.
Yeah.
I'll
attest to that.
Yeah, she can attest to that.
You're incredible. Can I share a story, Anita, about...
If you must.
Yeah, I invited Anita down to a speed dating networking, business networking thing in Frankston Arts Centre. And she was my guest. And she ended up being the belle of the ball because her networking skills and her wisdom that she had to share with that group of people who were like me, just sort of nervous and kind of a bit awkward. She totally nullified that feeling and really created this healthy, robust discussion. And it was so felt by that little group of people that she ended up receiving an award for being, I can't remember, the belle of the ball is the word that I've got in my head, but that's not what it was. But and sharing her wisdom and knowledge with people who were not expecting it, but ended up being so appreciative of it that they were like, she felt so valued that we nominated her the winner of the award for the night. Networking is next level for Anita. And yes, your skills are transferred into every environment that I've seen you in so far, which is quite remarkable.
That's what I'm trying to sort of give to people, is that I have now, I have more time and I have an energy. And because I do have that time, I'm not constricted to, I was actually thinking about having this podcast this morning as I was coming home from walking the dog, and I saw all the traffic on the roads near us and people dropping off kids and then listening to the radio of, you know, the Monash or the local freeway, which is jammed. And I thought, oh, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. And the world has changed in so many ways since COVID in a lot of ways, because a lot more people work from home. But what they denied during that is that the people still need to feel connected, because you were saying before, Greg, is that, you know, you work from home, but you still need that social connection, whether it's to get a cafe or to meet up in an office or something. And I think that was underestimated quite a bit by governments across the world, is that people actually need people. And you just redirect, unless your name's Elon Musk, then you just need power.
Or Trump.
Then you just need a stage. But people like to be connected. So if you're thinking about stepping back from that busyness of life, then you just might reposition yourself as to what makes you most satisfied. What satisfies you the most? And in my heart of hearts, it's actually making people happy, I think.
Just a little, and I think that this whole thing of lacking connection, like real connection, human connection throughout COVID, which is unlike anything most of us have seen.
Ever,
was really strong for every age and stage of life. But I see with the young people growing up, totally different episode, I'm sure. But there is a lack of resilience and a lack of connection, and the connection is through a device, right? And things like that. Then it's going to be a massive issue in society, at least in our modern Western societies as such. But different episode, take a note of that.
It's interesting as you drive up down the street and you're seeing all the private kids, all the kids going to private school, and every single one is sitting there like this.
Yeah, I know.
And all I could think about is, if you're a physiotherapist, that's a huge opportunity for you, because think of all the neck issues.
Myotherapy, massage.
Just think about it. You think
chiropractics.
The people, I was in the city last week, that was for a bit of a vacation, but every single person was walking along the street with a phone. So I sometimes just deliberately stand in front of them and go, oh, sorry, playing with their head. Like, there's a person here. Don't walk in front of me because you're on your bloody phone.
Or just stop when you know you've got somebody behind you on the phone and they walk in.
Oops. But I remember one thing that happened years ago, and this is before COVID, and I was in the city and I was doing my busy life and getting off the train and getting on and getting into the office and, ticking in. And there was this lady and her husband who was standing there, and she was almost in tears. And she was in her 60s and I was in my 40s. I thought, oh, who's this old bagging on the road? And her and her husband were standing there, and they had this map and they were kind of standing upside down. And I said, can I help you? She goes, we're trying to find X, Y, Z. And I said, okay, so if you turn around and just go up there. And she goes, she said, thank you. She said, we've been standing here for about 5 minutes. And I thought, what sort of humanity are we? Is that nobody could have stopped in their busy bloody day to say, can I help you? Where are you trying to go to? I mean, we're meant to be the most livable city. I mean, what a lot of bullshit that is. I mean, nobody could bother to help.
Melbourne just got voted.
Nobody stopped to ask to help these people. And that sort of struck me for years. I thought, stop walking out with your mobile phone and your espresso latte and actually help somebody. And it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think that is something that we need to be aware of. I mean, I'm one of those people that people come up to and ask for directions, no matter where I am, like in Thailand or Bali or in India as well. And I'm like, I don't look like I'm from here, but I get asked for direction. But I think it is because I have eye contact with people. Like I look people in the eye, right? And so it's kind of, if we don't look people in the eye, it's difficult for people to go out. But going back to you again, and you talked about reinventing energy and thought. So what does it actually look like at, wanted to talk about the positive aging and things like that. What does it look like at this stage of your life now?
I have certain things in place. So I don't just sort of wake up in the morning and go, what am I going to do today? Because I'm a sort of person that needs some purpose. So if I wake up in the morning and I don't have anything to do, I sort of think, a lot of people think that that's really refreshing. And it's refreshing for a couple of days, but then it becomes a bit confronting because you think, well, am I going to do anything today? What am I going to do? And so then I try and sort of invent things to do. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is it's not just a walk in the park. It's not just, so you actually have to have a sense of purpose. So I give myself days off. I give myself a day off from going to the gym. Ironically, Steph, I give myself a day off from playing bridge, but I will be involved in other things. So I feel a lot, and that's just my own sort of personality, is for me to sort of sit down and read a book for more than about an hour is quite challenging because I think, oh, what can I do now? What can I do? Where can I go? And when I had to have knee replacement surgery, that was one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do in my life because I couldn't actually walk or do anything. And that did my head in. I hated that because I need to be active. And I find that a struggle every single day.
Would you say that's something that is important to share with people in your life phase? Like, but I mean, that's
I don't know. In that sense, is that some people can just meditate. For example, after about 5 minutes, I think, oh, really, this is just not there.
Yeah.
So I'll then plan or do something, or I'll get in contact or make a phone call. But I can't just sort of sit there. But a lot of people think that that's somehow a freedom. I find it the opposite of a freedom.
Yeah. And so with your advocacy of positive aging, how would you encourage people to, like, do you have any tools or tips? Like, I know you found Bridge, but like, how can people tap into finding their purpose and positively aging at the same time?
Find out what it is that you liked doing the most. Now, for me, it's not playing cards, but it's actually being with people.
Right.
I have to be with people.
Yeah.
I have to be, I'm now running the Bridge Club. That's because, not because, I know, but that's because I'm a natural leader in that way. So now I've grown the club from X amount to a larger, like I've grown it by 50%, but I bring people along the journey with me.
Yeah.
So that's what I did in my former life. And it's interesting that they ask, the people say, oh, what did you used to do? Like somehow you can just package it up in a suitcase and forget that's what you do. Because you're going to bring it wherever you are. So if you were an IT person and not, then maybe some of the volunteering is of helping older people who aren't necessarily IT au fait, they have these community groups now, and I didn't know this, because they have like younger kids and older people that are choosing to retire, work part-time. And you can come in, like there's a little community spot and you go in, look, I don't know how to use the iPad, how do I do the software update? And I thought this whole world opens up to you of things that you never knew existed because you're so busy pedaling on that wheel.
Oh, no.
So my answer to that is, Steph, is if you're very talented in XYZ, work out how you can use those skills in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a little midlife reinvention, and I would say I found it quite hard to remember what I was good at and like what I liked and what, and
what makes you smile? What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Yeah. Do you know what? I found like I have so many different things. It was really hard for me to.
What's the one thing that you jump up in the bed in the morning and go, I can't wait to do whatever it is?
Play netball.
So what? Play netball. Now, if you can't play netball, so example, my physiotherapist. Manage a team. Get other people to play netball. Be an advocate for netball. It starts to, our physio, the physio lady we've gone to see for a long time, she ruptured her knee, ACL or it is, playing netball. So at 32, she could no longer play netball. And so she was lost. I mean, she works full time, she's got kids, but she loves netball. And I said, Kelly, coach.
Yes.
It seems like a natural progression to me. So now she's coaching and now she's talking to school kids about netball.
Yeah.
But I also think that, so the bridge is one thing, netball is one thing. I used to play football, or soccer as you guys call it, game football. Retired at 53 after coaching and playing because I kind of felt I got too many injuries, but there was also this thing around the coaching that was interesting. But the reason I was playing football wasn't so much the love for the game, but it was the love for being in a team environment and helping others do that. And I do that in my workplaces, in my coaching, in my talks and everything. I'm always talking about, how can we get the best work best together to do things. So that's so I think for you, Steph, like you're talking about, okay, I love netball, but why do you love it? Like, is it because of this or that? Because you may not be able to coach. Other things can you do that is
what other value
similar,
can you bring? Like my girlfriend, a friend of mine who she is a bridge player, but she's only 58 and is still working, and she runs her own IT business, but she's a mad keen soccer person. And she used to coach and play like yourself, right? And now she's the president of the Seaford Soccer Club. And she's attracting, so this is another local area here in metropolitan Melbourne. Yeah. And she's now attracting younger women, and she's got women coaches. And the men have gone, well, hang on. And so she's now got funding to set up a women's change room because they didn't have one. And the men went, oh, hang on, no. And all of a sudden,
it's so bad.
Okay, so this is her passion. Absolutely. She's gone from playing netball, soccer, whatever it is, and all of a sudden she realized that there was whole gaps, and she felt as a person, not just a woman, that this was bloody wrong. So find out for your listeners what makes you smile, what makes you live, what makes you. So if, for example, you love cooking like I used to, then maybe go to Meals on Wheels and donate some time. Think of what it is. If you love reading, maybe do reading for Braille, reading for people that can't read. All of these things. The world is just grab it. Just grab it because it's not here for long. And the way that being run at the moment, it might not be here for much longer.
All about finding purpose beyond work, isn't it?
Yes, so, there is.
Well, there's a lot of research to show well-being is connected to your sense of meaning and purpose.
Yes.
So your well-being is very much interlinked into how much you feel like you're contributing. I think what I love about your story, Anita, is that you those near-death experiences, not that you didn't appreciate life before, but you use those as a trigger to make sure that you live your life using the skills that you have by giving back as much as you can, which then gives you a sense of meaning and purpose. And I think for that, your well-being is quite... Would you say that's a fair
And then
reflection?
You help others along the way, simply because that's...
And it's that ripple effect.
The DNA is that, that's who I've always wanted to be, and I can't change it whether I'm working or not working. That's kind of irrelevant.
Right. Yeah.
So you find that you help people in other ways, and that's what I've always wanted to do. So, yes, do I miss working? Sometimes I do, but now it's been 2 years, and one of the things I found, one of the hardest things, especially at that networking event, is people go, well, what do you do? And so the question is, well, retired, but I don't have a business card. And someone says, do you have a business card? You go, well, what? Anita Spurling retired. And so,
no, I can help you with business card. Come on, Anita, we need to talk about this. Get your
I
little
don't need
visiting card.
No.
She doesn't need one.
I don't want it.
I just think it's fun. I think it's really fun to have a fun card to give to people because it starts conversations.
I don't. See, I just got to them and go, I shake their hand and say...
She doesn't need a card.
I don't need a card.
I don't need a card either, but I think it's fun.
But a lot of people do that because you think of it, that's who you are. That's how you tend to introduce yourself. Steph, you did that. I am an ex, I'm a nurse. And then I said, I am a this, I am retired. That's my title.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And you mentioned that many of us spend time in our lives acquiring things. What changed for you in how you measure a meaningful life? I think we've talked about this, but maybe just
I don't know if we
summarise.
need stuff. I think we're living in such a consumer society that we see things being delivered all the time. How many clothes can you wear? How many pairs of shoes do you actually need?
Yeah.
How many? I've never been like that. So I don't really understand why I need 5 cars. I can't drive 5 cars. I can only drive 1 car.
They look pretty, but no.
Yeah, but it's never been part of my DNA. And so I don't understand why we need more. More of what? How much more is it going to make us, is it going to add any more value? If I have another appliance, where in the hell am I going to put it in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Where do these things go? So I've got this new philosophy now. If I buy 3 pairs of shoes, I throw out 3 pairs of shoes. So I was in the city, as I said just recently, on a bit of a holiday, and I bought, coincidentally, 3 pairs of shoes. And I said to the lady, what do I do with these shoes? And she said, what she tends to do is, because, they were nothing wrong with the shoe, that they were just getting a bit worn and all the rest of it. And she said quite a few people bring the shoes back to her. She just cleans them up and puts them in an alleyway. And then the homeless person comes through the next day and takes them.
Wonderful.
I
And all
love
of it.
that.
So now I've got, all right, so I bought 3 bras the other day. And I spoke to them at the bra shop because it's a specialty bra shop. And I said, what do you do with the old bras? And they said they take them and send them to women in Fiji.
Oh, wow.
So I went and bought 3 bras and I've now given away 3 bras.
Yeah.
Do I
Yeah.
need 6 bras? I've only got 2 breasts and it's only 7 days a week. No. So
Does that include your sports bra?
Yep, I've got 2 sports bras. I don't need 4. So I
Yeah.
bought 2 new ones and gave 2 away.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
love that.
I just don't think we need stuff. I don't get it. I never have. The only thing you can't have enough of is wine and friendships
True. True.
and good food.
Like, I feel like we should almost finish there.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, because I'm going to be coming to WA if we can afford the diesel, so I'll catch up with you.
Yeah, well, it's a big question about diesel now, isn't it? Or any petrol, any
So
fuel.
work
and
out
things
what
like
you
that.
need. Work out what you want. What makes you happy. If it's spending time with your grandchildren, fantastic. A friend of
Yeah.
mine does it one day a week because childcare is very, very expensive. So a
Yeah.
friend of mine, her daughter works full time, and so does her husband. She's got 2 children. Her daughter, she's got 2 grandchildren, and she loves the grandchildren. And so she gives up every Monday and Wednesday, and she sends me photos of the kids in the house. Looks like a bomb's hit it, but she
Yeah.
absolutely loves it. Just loves it.
Yeah.
What makes you feel important?
Yeah.
You know,
But
you can
it-
travel, but how long can you travel for?
Yeah.
Everyone says,
I
"Oh,
could travel
I
all
want-"
life, but
Yeah, everyone says, "Oh, when I finish working, I want to travel more and do some hobbies." And then after a month, they go, "So I have to pay for it. You know, I'm not getting a paycheck anymore.
exactly, you need the money to do that.
You know, I'd love to do this." And they go, "Well, after a while, you know, you've spent, you know, your whole salary on a cruise." And you go, "Well, now what? Now what?" And then men, you know, go for the, you know, trade in the old model for the newer model, and then all of a sudden, but I think one of the saddest cases at the moment is the largest group of homelessness is not that we're thinking it is actually women 55 over,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Well, it's
for
the
me is
fastest
absolutely.
growing.
I think that's terrifying. I think it's absolutely terrifying.
It's also quite terrifying that there's 100,000 children under 12 that are homeless in this country.
and that's
so-
another. And this is a society that needs to actually reevaluate what is important, and it's not actually having 5 cars or being the
Yeah.
richest person in the world. It's actually giving
No.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Circular economy is another one we need to talk about.
Yes.
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 But as we're wrapping up, if somebody's listening and they kind of stopped racing for a moment, what do you think that they might be able to finally feel?
Yes, and you breathe, and you
Yeah.
smell, and you. It's interesting. I saw a psychologist for a while, and she said, when you go into the park, she said, I want you to actually find something new every single day. And I thought, oh, well, that's stupid. You know, it's the same park I've always go to. But I thought, all right, I'll try. So I slowed down, and Steph will testify that I'm not a slow person. And so all of a sudden, I slowed down, and I saw, you know, a spider's web. And I thought, oh, that's tick. But all I started to see is like I saw, you know, I saw an owl, and then I saw different things, and then I could smell gum trees. I could smell the wet trees. And then so
Oh, I love
every
that
single
smell.
day, I consciously think I'm looking for something new. Opposed to taking the dog for a walk, go, come on, we've got our 3Ks to do, I've got my 10,000 steps. Look for something new every single day, because you might go to the same place every day, but every day there'll be something, nature will give you something different. Just look for it. And that way you're exercising your mind and your feet, because you're constantly looking, and you're not, you know, don't take the earphones with you. Just take in nature.
Yeah. I 100% love that. And that in itself is a form of meditation,
Yes,
to be honest. And it's, for me, what I'm hearing from a sciencey kind of view is like creating mindfulness and mindfulness and that type of activation in your brain. It kind of prolongs the aging things that we all are heading towards, like dementia or Parkinson's or any of those kind of age-related type of lifestyle diseases. And in doing exactly what you're saying is what either it doesn't necessarily prevent it.
It
but
does. It might stem the
manages it.
tide. It manages it and stems the tide.
And I've got a grandmother in a nursing home at the moment where, and I've got aging parents, and my mum actively works on those things because she's watched her mum in a nursing home, and
We all do. There was a show on the BBC quite a number of years ago, and it was talking about older people in a retirement home, and they were using the people that did the crossword every day, and then there were people that were doing they're doing like Scrabble, and they're exercising their mind.
Yes.
And this is well before bridge, but this is where, and they were doing they're playing checkers, and then they're doing chess, and all of a sudden these people started reconnecting again. And it was absolutely fascinating because as we're all getting, and there's no history of dementia in my family, but I had a very sudden death in my family last year, very unexpected. And you have to stop then. And everyone says, I'll stop and smell the roses. But it actually becomes a bit of a wake up because you could any day not be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so exercise the body, but exercise the mind at the same time, because without one, you don't have the other.
Yeah. And I think if we're looking at that from a time wealth perspective, because time is actually quite limited. We're only on this planet for a very short time. And if we're exactly what you were saying earlier, if we're spending our time doing all these things that are just taking up time and space, and they're not actually filling us with joy and gratitude and meaning, then what are we doing it for?
What's the purpose of it all?
Right. So I really love that you have been able to.
Even if you work full time and you have to commute to the city, then sit on the train for half an hour and actually just maybe don't do anything. Don't get on the phone.
Smile to people, see what happens.
Talk. I love doing that. You get on it.
I've turned into my mum. I used to be so embarrassed. She was on the same bus as me and I could hear her all the time. And now I'm talking to all sorts of strangers myself. My mum is wonderful, but it's kind of
I know. I get on there and I go, where are you off to? They go, what? Who's talking?
Anita,
to me?
Anita can get a life history out of someone within 5 minutes. Like a very...
It's easy if you just open a little bit yourself.
You open up your mind and your eyes and you go, hi, how's your day been? They go, why do you care? And you go, I don't really, but let's have a chat. We've got half an hour on the train together.
I want to sort of pop something in here, and I know that we're right at the end and wrapping up, and we've probably done the wrap-up stuff, but throughout this whole conversation, Anita, you've had this, made this thing pop into my head, which is, I don't know if you guys saw them, I can't remember the name of the show, but I think it was Old People's Home for 4-year-olds and Old People's Home for 14-year-olds.
Yes.
And how wonderful was it with that intergenerational...
It was stunning.
Growth, both for the children, the youth, and for the older people. And it was just, and these were very well advanced, most of them, right, in age, but just having that, the light flare up in their eyes and the benefit, the cross-generational benefit of connection that some people might not have. I mean, I don't have children either, so.
And that's wealth, but I have lots of nieces and nephews, and I have, they will ring me and they'll say, I've got a cheap cut of meat, how can I make something tasty with it? Hello. It's a slow cooker, You don't need to buy the eye fillet because, they've got 5 kids and she's doing it hard. But they don't have those life skills that perhaps not you, Steph, but us two have got because we're a bit older, so we grew up in a different generation in that you didn't have consumerism. You didn't have to buy all the new things and have Uber Eats and all that sort of stuff.
Well, you couldn't.
You couldn't.
I mean, my family couldn't. We didn't have the money to do that.
I've only just recently learned how to catch an Uber. But as we get older, let's embrace life and new technology. It's our friend. Don't be scared of it.
Well, Gree is an AI expert.
See, I can network and grow your business, but then, then I have to get them to all play bridge.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about community, right?
It's all about bringing people together. We all need people.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for all this, you've touched on it and the Steph's touched on it and things. It's really that there are a bunch of things. There's community, there's social skills, there's using your brain. It's all those kind of things that actually keep you active and helps you manage conditions that may become more prevalent later in life.
And one day
being socially active, I think, is important.
One day we all won't be here. And there was a quote many years ago from the director of IBM back in the 70s. And something that always resonated. And he said, you never in your dying, when you're lying on your deathbed saying, I wish I spent more time in the office.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Never. No one's ever said it. And they never will.
No. And so I think our time has come to an end, but I do want to ask you one last question, and it's a question we will be asking all our guests this season. And what can you share with us what you believe living unplugged means to you now?
Freedom that I don't need to actually have to be logged into something all of the time to actually enjoy my life. I don't need to be plugged into the phone, to the news, to the television, to any of these things to actually enjoy my life. My favorite time is when my husband and I and the dog head out to the middle of the bush in the middle of Australia.
That's not my dog.
It's not my dog.
That was mine.
Yeah, clap that one. Is that the best time is you actually have nothing around you. There's no news, there's no interference, there's no conversations, and you're out in the middle of nowhere. Now, that could be just in your mind and you happen to meditate. That, for me, is we don't need to be constantly on the go. Strangely enough, the world will continue without you.
Yeah.
And that's a humbling thought because you can just take time out for yourself. Smell the gum trees, smell whatever flowers that you live in, whatever country you're in, because the world will not end without your participation for 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Unplug yourself.
Thank
Enjoy life.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think that's really inspiring. And now, look, Anita's retired, so I don't know that she really wants anyone to connect with her.
But I'd be happy to. If people want to feel that, I'm happy to do. That's fine. I love just helping people. That's my DNA.
Do you still have LinkedIn or anything?
I got rid of LinkedIn. That was so.
So shall we put
the
your email?
Yeah, you can put my email.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the most liberating thing I did just recently. As I got rid of my LinkedIn, I thought, do I need this? And I went, no, delete. They said, are you sure? And I went, yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Got rid of it. That was the most liberating thing I've done in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, we'll pop your email down if anyone wanted to get in contact with you around bridge, positive
Not about
aging.
Bridge, just about how to find yourself. It could be bridge, it could be netball. It's absolutely irrelevant what it is.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sure people will appreciate that.
So this has been a beautiful conversation about time, reinvention, and what becomes possible when we slow down and we let life slow down. Anita's story is a reminder that life doesn't stop when one chapter ends. Sometimes that's when the most meaningful parts begin. If this episode resonates with you, share it with someone who might need that reminder. And as always, stay curious, stay connected, and keep living unplugged.
Thanks, Anita. Thanks for joining us on Vitalify Unplugged. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with a friend. Hit follow or subscribe. And don't forget, we love hearing from you. So send us a message and tell us what's lighting you up. See you in the next episode.